Today we have a special guest speaker, Eddie and Renee Taubensee. Eddie, as for those of us who know in this area, probably most notably played for the Cincinnati Reds. And they shared in the 9 o'clock service, and I am just so thrilled with everything they shared. And I am so glad that you are here today in order to hear their message. And I told Eddie this once already, but one of the highest compliments I can give him outside of faith and his testimony in life, in the Bible, in Jesus, and all those other things, is that when I was in elementary school, I had a baseball game, and in that baseball game, they had Eddie Taubensee hitting sixth, and I did not allow that. I always moved him up to fourth, because I knew that's where he should rightfully be. How about that for an introduction? You're welcome. There you go. Hey, would you do this? Would you please give the warmest Be Hope Church welcome you can to Eddie and Renee Taubensee?
Wow, again, Kevin, my manager should have batted me fourth a little bit more. That would have been very nice. You need to get on this side.
Why do I need to get on this side?
Oh, because I learned that you need to be on the right side. The women always need to be on the right side because they're always right.
Ah.
They are always right.
Ladies, you can thank the Fergusons for that one.
Yes. Renee and I had a great time in the 9 o'clock service, and so thankful we were invited to come, and we're a little bit sorry that coming from Orlando, it's been raining almost every day. We brought some rain with us the last couple of days, so you could blame us a little bit for that.
We were hoping to bring you the heat too, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. But today, I'm excited to share with you a little bit what even Kevin shared about too from Isaiah. He talked about the heaviness of life, the things that can really weigh on us and bring us down. Hopefully what I share with you today can help you with that, to alleviate the heaviness, just to let Christ carry our burdens. But obviously, with that, how do we live life as a follower of Christ, and what do we do where we go? And that's what I want to share with today a little bit. I want to share a little bit about that with having to do the survival of my major league career, consisted of three things. It consisted of, I'm considering talking more about it, but it consisted of the coaches above me. And these are the coaches who've been through the battles and who've mentored and coached you, try to get you to get where you need to go. It's also the contemporaries who are beside me, the players that I played with, the great players, Barry Larkin and players like that, which was awesome. Deion Sanders, Ken Griffey Jr., Sean Casey, all those guys. It was so much fun. And also, too, the call-ups that were trying to replace me. These three types of people had a big impact in my baseball career. And we're going to talk about that. And how does that impact my spiritual life and our walk with Christ? We're going to talk a little bit about that. But before that, we're just being thankful for being here. And my wife and I have been married 25 years. And yes, even though she's only 28, even though she's 28, we've been married 25 years. We have three amazing boys. They're 23, 21, and 19. So we have a lot of hormones going on in the house.
And a lot of food going out.
And a lot of food going out. So we're gone for the weekend. There's probably nothing left in the fridge. Nope. Hopefully the dog has been fed. And we will see when we get home. But we will find out. But my background is, obviously, I played a long time for the Reds. I started out with the Reds, if you didn't know. I started playing my professional career when I was 17 years old. So I started playing professionally when I was 17 years old. I got drafted by the Cincinnati Reds at 17. Spent 5 years in the minors with them. And I got drifted off to some other teams, made my big league debut with the Indians in 1991, traded to the Houston Astros for a couple of years, and came back with the Reds from 94 through 2000, and ended my career with the Indians for one more year in 2001. So for about 12 or 13 years of my professional career has been with the Reds. So I bleed red through and through, just FYI to let you know.
Every vehicle we have is red, the garage floor is red, the washer and dryer are red, all red.
Yes, it sure is. It is all red. So we really kind of, I still love the Reds, and hopefully they still love me. So that would be great. But we want to talk about us a little bit, just our background. With that being said, having boys, and we also work for a ministry in baseball. We stay connected with baseball. Even though I played baseball for all those years, been out of the game 18 years, we stay involved with professional baseball through a ministry called Pro Athletes Outreach.
Yeah, and Pro Athletes Outreach started a long, long time ago. And basically, the idea is we have a conference that we put on. We bring in some of the best teachers in the country. We teach faith, family, finances, and practical applications of just life in the game and how to live this life in a way that honors God and to support each other. And so we put on a conference in the off season for baseball. And then in spring training, that's one of the times a year that people think that's stressful for the guys. Well, it's twice as stressful for the girls because they have no idea often where they're going in the next 6 weeks. They're looking at apartments in 3 different cities. They're the ones that have to pick up things and move along and encourage their guys as they're fighting for a spot on the team. And so I put on women's luncheons in spring training to encourage them and come alongside them and lift them up and show them they're not alone in this game.
Yeah, and so we're the ambassadors to professional baseball. So all that means is since I played the game, we lived a life. So during spring training, I go into the clubhouse to visit players. I'm non-threatening. I put on the uniform, and there's an automatic trust, and there's an automatic connection that we have, hopefully. And these conferences are amazing. We've been doing it over 45 years. We do it for NFL football. We were going to start doing it for the NHL. And it was at this conference 1995 where my life changed dramatically. I mean, because otherwise, for me being up here, speaking in front of everybody and being a pastor at my church and being an elder and doing a lot of things, it is not what I was called to do. It's not what I wanted to do, but God had another story in my life. And
he didn't want to go to this conference. Tim and Stephanie Pugh were on the Reds at the time, and they invited me to the conference. We did a little bit of Bible study. Eddie went to chapel a little bit, but it was in Orlando, and that's home for us in the off season. And so they said, this conference is coming. We really want to see you. We want you to come. And I was like, absolutely. I'll tell Eddie we're going to do that.
Well, yeah, and this is before the internet and things like that. So the way you sign up for the conference, you have to call in and things like that. So it wasn't an easy thing to do. I told her, I'm a kind of level-headed guy. I don't get upset, but that's the first time we had our first argument. I said, you know what, forget that thing. We're not going to that. I said, deal with it.
He did. He said, deal with it. That was a bad idea. He said, deal with it, and then he slammed the door at our bedroom and walked away. And I was like, deal with it? Oh, I'm going to call and give him our credit card. And I opened the door and I said, well, we just paid for it, so deal with it. And slammed the door. Wasn't the best response, ladies.
She might have won that one, but I said, you know what? I said, okay, you know what? I'll go to this Christian thing, but I'm going to sit in the back row. I'm going to gut through this for 4 days because you know what? To be honest, I did go to chapel, and I like going to chapel. I did go to some Bible studies, but I went to chapel because I kind of thought it was a good motivational speech. You know, it was on Sunday. You know, we're facing somebody. You're facing, John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, Kurt Schilling, and I got my baseball glove, I got my bat, and it's kind of a good motivational speech. I'm excited, ready to go, and so I kind of liked it. But I knew if I went to this event, I was going to be confronted with, what I knew, what I was doing. I was straddling that fence like you wouldn't believe. I liked hearing these things about Jesus. I like guys like him. Well, he was a great pastor. I get fired up listening to him. But also, too, I like doing other things, too. And what happened that first night, the gospel was shared. Something simple was shared, and it just changed my whole life. All he talked about was this. He talked about, the speakers talked about how God made us in his own image. And I didn't read the Bible. I said, you know what? I know that's on the first page somewhere. But then he also said, we don't mold God into our own image. And the more he talked, he hit me over the head. I was a catcher, so I had a lot of, I probably had a few concussions, but that rung my bell pretty clear right there. I was molding God into a God who I thought he should be, instead of what he already is. I wanted God to change for me and fit my lifestyle. Instead of, you know what? I had to learn, golly, I have to surrender everything to you because you're not going to change for me. I didn't change for you. So it's kind of like this. A lot of you guys are baseball fans and girls and kids. You know your favorite ball player. Do you know all the stats on the back of the card? Oh, man, all the stats, what they hit. But you know what? You don't know that person personally. And that's where I was with my faith. I kind of knew some stats about Jesus, the Christmas thing, talk about Christmas. If there was a Christmas in July, I would have believed you. That would have been awesome. But I knew about the Christmas thing, the Easter, but you know what? I knew some stats, but it was all up here in the head. It never changed my heart. So then that's where my life totally changed. I said, you know what? I give up. I give it to you. I don't know where it's going to go or where you're going to take me, but I know that that's what my life's all about.
And that just radically changed our marriage, our relationship. We learned a lot of the practical tools that we have, communication, parenting, finances, all that kind of stuff, and in a group of people that understood our lives. So we love that ministry.
And to tie all that in before I go into the message, I mean, you guys have gone through a lot in a couple of weeks, and Kevin is talking about the horrible tornadoes that came through here, that we saw the destruction that's happened. I mean, it's amazing, and we deal with a lot of hurricanes in Orlando, and we've seen the same thing. And to be honest, yes, I played in the major leagues. Yes, we have 3 awesome boys who are trying to go on their faith journey. And yeah, I'm a pastor, but you know what? Our lives there's been a lot of destruction and a lot of storms that has hit our lives like this tornado. There's been times in our life where, man, there is so much damage. Is it worth, fixing up? And can it get fixed up? And can we go forward? But I tell you what, our foundation we've learned, and as I talk about today, those types of people in my life in baseball, how we need them in our Christian walk. Our faith was built on the foundation of Christ, the rock of Christ, His Word, God's Word. If it wasn't, we would not be here. We would not be married, but through those storms, we were able to get through that. So that's what I kind of want to share with you today as we get going.
And I just want to encourage you, if you're going through one of those storms, to just focus in on God, focus on His truth, focus on surrounding yourself with people that will build you up and point you to Him, because what gets built up after that destruction, after things fall apart, is so much better and so much richer.
And besides our church in Orlando, Be Hope Church would be a great place to go.
It is great.
And have that. So, yeah. So. So what I want to start off with, I want to talk about the coaches in baseball. These were the men who were above me and usually gone through the battle already. They were there to instruct. They were there to inspire and mentor and help you succeed on and off the field. And you just hope the good ones saw it as a calling, not just as a job. There's some coaches that did it as a job, but man, the good ones, they saw it as a calling because they were called to do this. Some of the best coaches I ever had never, ever made it to the big leagues. They've been coaching in the minor leagues 30, 40, 50 years and never made it to the big leagues. I also have had some great coaches in the big leagues and also had not so great coaches in the big leagues. I also had a coach when I got sent down in the minor leagues one time. I was a pretty good hitting catcher my career. But my first year with the Astros, I was hitting like a buck 60 and not hitting good at all. And you know what? They sent me down to the minor leagues, and we went to Canada to play, and my coach got me a date with a certain girl in the stands, and we've been married 25 years since.
He cornered me.
Coaches have a yes.
He asked me out from the field. I couldn't say no. So.
Yeah, how about that? And that was good, and that's pretty awesome. That's a good story in itself. We would love to tell one day. But also too, I've also had coaches not only help me in my marriage, but also had coaches that didn't have a lot of faith in me. I played a little bit for the Astros. Got traded from the Indians to the Astros. I got traded for. The Astros were moving some young catcher. Maybe he was an all-star one time. They moved him to second base, and they needed another catcher to kind of replace him and kind of maybe take the mantle. And this kid was named Craig Biggio. Yeah, Craig Biggio. And so I think he turned out to be okay. I think he was a Hall of Famer and things like that. So, but the thing is, there was a lot of pressure on me because they traded a young player away to the Indians for me, a guy named. Kenny Lofton. Yeah, Kenny Lofton. Yes. So another guy who's a borderline Hall of Fame. So you see the pressure of me going to the Astros. Man, Eddie, we're expecting a lot of big things from you, And so, but with that, playing for a couple years with the Astros, really progressing, getting a little bit better and better. But, but sometimes I wasn't playing when I should be playing. I was wondering why. And there was a time with the Astros in 1994 where we went to Miami to play. I wasn't playing loud at the beginning of the year. I was like, man, what is going on? They're not giving me a shot. And we had a day game in Miami. I was doing my regular routine. I got up, I took a shower. So I was getting ready to go have lunch. And I get a phone call. And they said, hey, Eddie, this is so-and-so. This is a traveling secretary. He said, what are you doing? Well, I'm getting up, getting ready to have some lunch and go to the ballpark. He said, well, it's a day game. And I'm like, oh. And that's like the worst. Players have dreams about this.
He still has dreams about this.
You know what? The game's going on and they're not there and they're stuck somewhere. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I went into the manager's office. I rushed to the stadium, packed everything, and my family was there waiting for me. And I drove past the cabin, and there they are. I say, hey, we need tickets. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do much right now. And so I went into the manager's office, and I explained. I said, Terry Collins was the manager. He said, hey, man, I'm so sorry. This is not like me. We had a lot of stuff going on personally and in the family with like kind of deaths in the family, like dealing with it. And he said, you know what, Eddie? It happens to the best of us. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I said, good. And it took a lot off my shoulder. We had a day off the next day, went to Chicago, called me back in. He said, Eddie, you're traded. I was like, what? Okay, so I found out I was traded to the Reds. Yes. Traded to the Cincinnati Reds in 1994, and I was catching with a guy named Brian Dorsett. We were platooning, and we were first place, and then the strike came. I'm like, oh, well, the strike came, and I was like, that stinks. And because we were ready for the playoffs. But after that, the point is, after that, as we started playing, they started bringing in these other catchers. Benito Santiago one year, Joe Oliver came back, all these veteran great catchers, and I'm a young catcher trying to prove myself and always hitting better than these guys and doing better. And we're playing teams where I know I own this pitcher, and then the coach said, hey, you're playing today, and I find myself not playing. And then that gets kind of frustrating when you lose faith. But as a player, you can't lose faith. I keep going, I keep pushing on until maybe one day there's a coach that believes in you. And that's when a gentleman named Jack McKeon came along. If you remember him in the late 90s, he came along about 1998 with the Reds, and he was great. He was great, he's kind of an old school type of manager. If you remembered him, he just sat in the dugout. He had a big cigar, and he just smoking it up and just talking baseball. And there was no such thing as analytics to him. And I don't think he knew what that word was. He just like, you know what? I'm just putting the big boys in and let them play. Let the young players play. And that was great because he allowed me, someone to play every day. And what happened, I found myself playing every day in the big leagues for the first time in 1998. And I made the big leagues in 91. And what was kind of great about it and scary about it at the same time is it was great. I was playing every day, and what was scary about it, after 2 months of the season in May, I was leading the league in hitting. I was hitting 370 in the end of May, and there's a paperclip with Eddie Taubensee, 370, Tony Gwynn, who's won like 8 batting titles, and John Olerud and others, and I'm like, wow. That's a lot of pressure. And then I started getting all this attention, media attention, which I didn't really want. And they say, Eddie, looks like you're going to be an all-star this year. I'm like, all-star? I'm just happy to play every day. Are you kidding me? And so I found myself not believing in myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I started putting pressure on myself and my average went down. I didn't make the all-star team. And I wish I believed in myself because I backed it up the next year with a bigger year. And that would have been great. But the point is, I got the chance to play every day with Jack McKeon, and I had a coach who believed in me. And the point is, of all those years I played, each coach has their imprint on me, whether in a positive or a negative way.
Yeah, and as a wife, I had, we were thinking about this, I had women who were before me in the game, who'd gone beyond me in the game that I'd met through this conference, who poured into me, and they were sort of my coaches for how to live this kind of crazy baseball life. Kathy Tanana, whose husband Frank Tanana played for the Angels in Detroit for like 19 years in the big leagues. She really taught me that it's okay that your life looks different, and what you do is important to your family, and how to raise kids in the game and live in the game and just be a part of this life together. Kathleen Sanderson, her husband Scott, played for the Cubs and the Yankees. He just actually passed away this year. But she really taught me how when your husband is gone every other week and he's only home for a couple hours during the day, you have to really pursue that deep relationship, that intimacy in those hours you have together. Put aside the expectations and what you think you're going to do and find ways to just dig in and build that intimate relationship. And then Olga Flynn, whose husband Doug played for the Reds and the Mets, and Lisa Weston, whose husband played for the Mets and coached for a while as well. They really just taught me to embrace all the adventure, that it's crazy ups and downs and you're moving all over the place. We figured out last night that we've moved 30 times, and by we, I mean me, have moved 30 times. And just to embrace that and to say this is our life, to find a church to go to, knowing I'm going to walk in by myself and not know anybody there, and that's okay, to find ways to engage with other people and with opportunities that God puts in front of us. So they coached me through those things.
Yeah, so it's important, the coaches were important in my life, but also in the stands, it was important for Renee because she spent most of the time up there. If you ask players, the vast majority of them, what they miss most of the game, it's not necessarily the accomplishments they made and things like that. They're missing the camaraderie, the things, the clubhouse stuff, just little things, spending time with each other. That's what we really miss. And if you ask them, and when it comes to my contemporaries, the guys I played with, these were the ones, they were the core catalyst of my baseball life because I spent more time with them than I did with my family during the season. I saw my family 2 hours during the day, and after that, it was with them the rest of the time. So, but I did see her in the stands during the game. I gave her like a "I love you" sign and acknowledge her.
That doesn't count as time together.
That is. I saw you. That's time. So, but it is time. It counts, doesn't it, guys? Yeah. But all over those years, I've had many, many teammates. Even some make the Hall of Fame. We have Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell, Barry Larkin, the Red, Roberto Alomar when I played with the Indians, Jim Thome, Trevor Hoffman, and obviously another Red, Ken Griffey Jr. So, yeah, these are great players I got a chance to play with, and it was really neat to see my contemporaries go in. All over those years, I played on a lot of different teams. I played on a team that lost over 100 games. When I was with the Indians in '91, we lost 105 games. We really stunk. It was '91. If you remember the movie Major League, we wore those uniforms. We played in that ugly stadium. Well, I shouldn't say. That's a bad word. That's bad to say, isn't it? But Municipal Stadium wasn't the greatest.
Well, it had a nickname.
It had a nickname, Mistake by the Lake. So it was a big stadium, and it held 70,000 people. We didn't get about 1,000 a game, so it was not that good.
It was bad.
Then I got traded, and then I also played with the Reds in '95. I played with the Reds. That was a fun year. We were in the playoffs that year. Barry Larkin won MVP, and we lost to the Braves to go to the World Series. And that was the closest I ever came. But to let you know, I hit 500 during the playoffs. And it was... Kevin's laughing. He laughed with Kevin. How many hits do you get in the playoffs? All right. So,
hang on.
So,
how many hits did you get during the playoffs?
What's that?
How many hits did you get for that 500?
I hit 500.
Which is?
1 for 2. That's my whole point. If you heard my message earlier, if the coach would have faith in me, I'm hitting 5. I could have carried us. You know what? I would have ran through Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavin.
Okay, you own Smoltz, but I don't know.
Yeah, all those guys. We would have hit them easy, wouldn't we? Yeah, no. Obviously, the Braves went on to win the World Series that year, and that pitching staff, that team was, they were better us at that time. But I could say I'm a 500 playoff hitter.
It's true.
But one of my best memories is with the Reds. That was fun. But 1999, we won 96 games, and we were fighting for the playoffs, and it was great. We had guys like Barry Larkin, Sean Casey, Brett Boone, Aaron Boone, Dimitri Young. And man, we were having so much fun. We thought we were going to make the playoffs, but man, we had to play that extra game against the Mets, that was a tough one. It was hard. That's a hard pill to swallow still, because all we had to do at the time is beat the Brewers, who weren't good at that time. They're great now. We had to beat them 2 out of 3 games, and the first game we lost. The second game we blew a 2-run lead in the 9th, and the third game we had a rain delay, like a 6-hour rain delay, and we saw that the Mets won and the Astros won, and we were forced to win, so we were forced to pitch our best pitcher, Pete Harnish at the time, because we couldn't save him, and we ended up winning, and so we had to play a playoff game, our extra season game the next day. We were supposed to play at 12 o'clock or 12:30. We got home at 6 in the morning, but they changed it to a night game, and Al Leiter pitched an amazing game and then beat us. But even though we lost, that still is one of the most fun years because we all, like our contemporaries together, we fought for someone. We were going through the same thing, the ups and downs, the highs and the lows, and it was something amazing about it. And I've been out of the game now for about 18 years, and when I still run into those guys and those teammates, we still talk about things like that. That's what we talk about, those great memories. And not necessarily the negative ones. It's all the great ones.
Yeah, they build a special bond being together as much as they are, but the wives do too. We're with each other all the time and when the guys are on the road. And one of my favorite stories about one of my contemporaries, we got traded, and you guys see that in the news all the time. Oh, so-and-so got traded and they're playing there the next day, no big deal. Well, it's a big deal for the wife that has to move everything. And so when Eddie got traded, he was on the road. I was at home in Houston. He called me and he said, hey, just sit down. And I said, you got sent down? He's like, no. He's like, you need to sit down. He says, I got traded to Cincinnati. I need you to get there as soon as possible because we have a game tomorrow. We're leaving right after the game for a 10-day road trip. And so my girlfriends and I, we were crying. They took me to the airport. I got on a red-eye flight, flew into Cincinnati. I was pretty frustrated and overwhelmed. Got off the plane and said, what kind of city is this? They don't even have an airport. It's in another state. And I hate the uniforms. I did. They were the sleeveless, but Anyway, so we got to downtown, and we didn't have a car. We didn't know anybody. We had to get everything done that day. So from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock to when he went to the park, we found a place to live, got him a suit, got him a haircut, and I went back to the hotel and crashed. And so he went to the game, and he says that he called me and told me how to get my tickets, but I don't remember him calling me.
I texted you.
That was way before text. Oh. No. Oh, my goodness. No. Anyway, he says he called me. I could have crashed right through that. I was pretty tired and overwhelmed. And so I got up. I didn't even know. I'm like, I know it's close to here, walking distance. What way do I even go? By the time I got to the stadium, I just felt overwhelmed and sad and alone. Had to ask somebody for tickets. Where do I find my tickets? I promise I'm Eddie Taubensie's wife. Can I get a ticket? And they took me to where I needed to go. And I wanted to get there on time for the game, at least a little early, so that Eddie could see me, and then he would mentally be able to say, okay, everything's done. I'm good. I can just, relax and do my job. And so I walked into the stands, and I'm looking for the wives section, and I see a girl standing in the wives section. I thought, oh, okay, and walked down thinking maybe she was an usher. And she turned around and she said, are you Renee Taubensee? And I said, yeah. And she said, I'm Corey Foster. My husband Steve and Eddie played in the minor leagues, and I thought you might just want somebody to be here. Yep, gets me choked up every time I talk about it. It was just so sweet. Like, she thought about how much pressure that was going to be and how hard it was going to be, and she just wanted to encourage me and be there for me. And even if that was just to say hello, but just to know I'm not alone in all this craziness. And so that really impacted the way that I saw the other girls and treated the wives for the rest of the time that I was in the league, and even what we do now in ministry, because you don't know what that person next to you is going through. You don't know what's going on in their lives, and they may not know even how to ask for help or know that you're a safe place. So just be that person that'll come alongside people and say, I just want to be there for you.
Yeah, same thing. Those little things go a long way. Now the call-ups, they call them a lot of things. The future, phenom, pup, rook. I've been called hey you, can't miss, and there's other things that I guess they could call them, and you can't say in church. But it could be very intimidating getting called up for the first time as a rookie, and you just hope that the veterans aren't just going to push you aside, that they're going to maybe take a hold of you and teach you something, and that's what a veteran's job is when it comes to the calls. Because I remember I got called up in '91 with the Indians in September. They called up so many guys, there wasn't enough room in the locker room for my locker. They put me in the kitchen and right next to the refrigerator. And I quickly got the nickname Lunchbox. Because I was 22 years old and I'm snacking on everything in that fridge.
Free food.
It's free food. My God, I mean, the big leagues, I'm going to take advantage of this, all the free food. I put some in my pocket, take some back to the hotel, so I quickly got Lunchbox as my nickname, but I didn't care. But the point is, being a rookie, I did have veterans take a hold of me and go out and buy me lunches and kind of teach me what it is. What am I dealing with, this overwhelming big league of these big stadiums, and just, the bigness of it and the pressure. And they help you, guide you, walk through that. And we see that with the Reds. Barry Larkin was amazing with that. I remember him taking Pokey Reese when he first got called up, man, just mentoring him, buying him clothes, getting him dressed, and teaching him what it is to be a Cincinnati Red, what it is to represent the name on the front, not necessarily worry about what's on the back of your jersey. And rookies are assigned to do many things. I remember I had to serve food on the plane. As guys say, Eddie, go get me some food, get me a beer, get me some cookies and all that. But it's all done in a good way. Nowadays, the guys in the bullpen have to carry the Dora the Explorer backpack full of baseballs and, things like that. Or the Avengers backpack would be cool.
Yeah, I don't think they'd choose that one.
I don't think and then they make them dress up in fun stuff too. But usually the veterans take hold of somebody that's young and do that. And I remember we did the same thing, taking care of young rookies. I remember my last year in 2001, having a young rookie outfielder get called up for the first time and live with us for a month. And this guy's name's Dave Roberts, and he's now the manager for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I need to call him up. I need to say, hey, buddy, Dave, you remember, when you lived with me? And get some tickets, to the Dodger game, playoff tickets. But the point is, you just never know. Yeah, I never thought Dave Roberts would be, the manager, but you just never know what that impact might be. Taking care of young players is very, very important because they get not only help the team win, but they're the ones that are going to continue on when you leave. Because I remember even with the Reds, they brought up young Jason LaRue, and you know what? When he played, I wanted to cheer for him because I wanted to win. But also, too, he when I left, he had a great career at the Reds. And I didn't worry about that. If I was doing my job, I could hold him off at bay for a little bit. But his time was coming, and that was okay. And that's okay. And that's what the veterans need to do.
Yeah, and we had veterans as well on with the wives. So with the Reds, we had a really good, tight group of people. A lot of girls that hung out and encouraged each other every day and lived life together. Susie Boone, Megan Morris, Stephanie Pugh, they were some of my closest friends for years. But Eddie would joke around every year in spring training that, they forgot to trade me. And they're going to see me and be like, oh, I thought we traded you. And so we were there for 7 years. So by the end, it was kind of like me and Lisa Larkin were the veterans on the team. And she was great. She would definitely talk to people about using their platform and influence, getting involved in the community. But she also taught me, family is really important, and you need to be sure that you're looking at your family first and their needs first, things like that. And there was a meeting that we had at the beginning of one year, and Lisa's pretty busy. Her kids are a little older than everybody else's. And so there was a decision that needed to be made, and all these young girls all turned to me when it came to the decision. I thought, I can't be the veteran. I'm not the veteran. But they're all looking to me to what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And so, I wasn't ready for it mentally. I didn't think I was equipped to do it, but I stepped into that role because it was something that needed to be done. Somebody needs to be the one that steps forward and says, let's live life like this. Let's make an impact like this. Let's do these things together and encourage each other. And I had a young girl, one year we were where did we play with them? We've had so many friends, Indians. I was like, where was that? We were with the Indians, and there was a young catcher, and again, Eddie knew this guy was going to be a great catcher and really wanted to pour into him, and we had one off day in spring training, and it was close to Orlando. We lived in Orlando, and so there was a girl on the team that was kind of stuck to herself, this was Lindsay Bard, Josh Bard's wife, and so I sat down with her one time, got to talking to her, and saw she had a scar on her neck, and just, I used to be a reporter, so I just asked her the straight question, what's that from? What's going on with you? And she said, well, people don't usually ask me that. I had thyroid cancer, and I'm over it, but everybody still treats me like I'm glass, and if they know what's going on, they kind of treat me different, so I don't really talk about it. And I said, well, I won't treat you different. What do you want to do on the off day? Let's do something together. And so we ended up taking them to Disney and running her ragged the whole day. And by the end of the day, we had laughed and talked and gotten to know each other and just really poured into them and just had a great time. And she said, you know what? Thank you for not treating me any different. Thank you for not worrying about everything and just treating me like a normal person. We were only together with them, I think, maybe about 6 weeks, but she's a friend that when I see her, it could be 3-5 years, and she'll just grab my face and be like, I love you. And I'm like, I love you too.
And he's the bench coach for the Yankees now with Aaron Boone. My goodness, I need to call some of these people. Oh, man, no, I'd rather be here, Kevin.
Tickets,
this is the place God has me to be. I'm right here. Thank you. All right, so. No, those are great stories, but what does that mean practically? How does this really apply to our lives and my life too? I mean, these three groups that were involved and impacted my playing career, were, whether a negative or positive way, each had a specific role in my development, and I still draw on all of these moments today, because everything I think about, I apply it from baseball, but biblically it has application in our lives. For people of faith, for myself, we need to have a coach. You need to have a coach in your life who has been through some of the battles and can guide us through life's challenges in a Christ-centered way. And you can find that here. If this is not your home church, you can find that here. We've met many people who are like that already. And you need to surround myself and ourselves with others that are contemporaries, who we want to live life with, and we need to encourage each other and really have some fun with too. Being a Christian's fun. People think it's boring. It's fun. It's fun, and we have good times. We joke, and it's great. And it's not boring. And finally, we need to find that young person, not necessarily in age, but spiritually, that wanting to grow in their faith, someone you could pour into, or maybe even someone just to even share the good news of Jesus, what the gospel is, and how it could change their life. And I was thinking that during my 11-year Major League career, I played for 3 teams, was sent to the minors, got traded twice, 7 different big league managers, moved 30 times, and so many different teammates. And the point is, these relationships that you will have will probably change over the course of time. There was times where great men poured into me were for a specific purpose, a time, maybe for 6 months. I've had guys still pouring into me for the last 15 years. And it's the same way spiritually. It might be someone for a brief period of time. It could be a one-time meeting, a week, a couple months, or many years. So it's important that those relationships are very, very important. And they've been huge in my walk with Christ, whether for the short term or for the long haul. And so I get these. I just didn't make these things up, but this is biblically, and we see this in Scripture as I finish up. We see someone who is an amazing coach. We see this in the Apostle Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament. He wrote 13 books of the New Testament, and he was an amazing coach. And he was someone who says, you know what, follow me as I follow Christ. And we see that with Kevin. You're here following him because you see that he's following Christ, which is an amazing thing. That's why this church is packed at 9 and packed at 11, because you see that in him, and he's here to teach and to coach. But also we see that with Paul being a coach to his young call-up, young Timothy in the faith. And we see that. He had others too, but we see that in young Timothy. But we also see Paul needed a contemporary. That was in the brother in Christ, Barnabas, who was his contemporary, who stuck in his missionary journeys where, people were getting on Paul, coming after him. Barnabas would stick up for him. And so we see this outlined in Scripture. And if you could take 3 things away from here today to help you, these are the 3 things. We need to look for a Paul in our life. You need to look for someone who could coach you. That's a coach. You need to look for a Paul. 1 Corinthians 11:1, Paul says, follow my example as I follow Christ. That's what that person needs to be. If they're following Christ, you need to say, you know what? I see consistency in this coach. They've been through a lot, man. I see the scars. I see the battle wounds. I'm following you. I'm gonna come after you. Live with a Barnabas. Find somebody contemporary you can live life with. Hebrews 3:13 says, encourage one another daily as long as it's called today, so we do not get caught into sin's deceitfulness. I need that, man. I need to find somebody to call me out, who knows my weaknesses and who knows my strengths, and then we can have a good time together. And finally, you need to live what you have learned with a Timothy. You don't have to know everything. As you're growing your faith, you need to just find somebody who's not there with you. You just need, when I was discipling, all I tell people, you just need to be one day ahead reading a chapter than them and then mentor them, just to do your little homework. And so the Great Commission in Matthew 28, 19 through 20, Jesus says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them, which means living life with them, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you. And Jesus says, I am with you always. That's comforting to know. And so I thank you for letting us come share with you guys today. And a great, happy Father's Day to the fathers. And I don't know where everybody is with their father situation, whether you had a good father, so-so or whatever. But you know what's good? We have a good Heavenly Father. And He wants to, and He has pursued you. He has pursued you with great passion. And the Bible says God demonstrated His love for us in this, that He sent His Son, Jesus, to die for you. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.